Blake Atwood with FaithVillage.com. I'm talking with Brad Lomenick, the president and key visionary of Catalyst. I've heard it said, too, that there's no waste in God's economy. And I appreciate that you share about your life and work pre-Catalyst. I thought that was pretty fascinating. So tell us a little about your career trajectory and how the work you once did led to the work you now do.
Well, if you look at the history of me, and you look at some of the benchmarks in my life, a lot of them don't make sense when you look at them on paper. I went to school and got a history degree, thought I was going to go to law school, and went and worked on a guest ranch in the middle of Colorado, and sort of found for me what was really, really important in terms of my foundation, both as a follower of Jesus as well as just my work, theology, and career, and I think finding a sense of who I was. But most people would think, really, you found that on a ranch in the middle of the mountains in Colorado? But it is true. And then I went after that and was a part of a consulting firm, and we started a magazine called Life at Work that was really looking at the intersection of faith in the marketplace and faith and work, and the idea of carrying the Harvard Business Review and the Wall Street Journal in one hand and the scriptures in the other, and saying, you know what, let's make sure we're making these come together. And there's so many, there's so many men and women who are in that space where they feel like in some ways they're lost, although that's their calling and is to be in the marketplace. So that was a huge part of for me, kind of my late 20s, and then I've been at Catalyst the last 10 years, and the things that I've seen play out for me career-wise is that, my calling is to be an influencer of influencers. And it's not a arrogant statement. It's more of the sense that that's just what I've been called to do, and so leadership conferences fit within that. The idea of gathering leaders and connecting leaders and inspiring leaders, that really fits for me. And so Catalyst was never something that I looked at way back and said, oh, I want to be in the conference business, or be in the leadership event world. I mean, that wasn't the goal. It was more that the idea of being able to see my role as a connector and as a platformer and as a equipper and a gatherer was much more for me in the sweet spot of my calling. So for 20-somethings who are still, and 30-somethings even, who are wrestling with, man, I don't feel like that I know yet in my life what I'm truly purposed to do. Give it time. Don't feel like you've got to rush it. And you're probably pretty close in the sense that if you're pursuing something either vocationally that you work at and you get paid for, or that your hobbies or the things that you like to do, during the evenings or on the weekends, somewhere in that space and what you're working around and working with is probably the sweet spot and the intersection of your calling. So just keep working at it, keep searching for it.
So what's the most difficult leadership lesson you've learned?
Oh, man. Gosh, there's so many. I've learned early and often, and continue to learn, that if you're the visionary and you're the person who's driving the ship, that you're going to always be, and I say always because I really think it's true, you're going to always be the one in your organization who has the most passion and has the most drive to get something accomplished. What that means is you can't necessarily always expect your team to play or to want to participate or have the same drive as you do. And the thing I've learned over lots of years is that I can't necessarily hold them to the same standard of blind ambition that I have. And I think that's important for those of us who lead organizations, and especially if you're starting a nonprofit, you're starting a church, you're starting a cause, you're in the space where you're trying to get the flywheel started, as Jim Collins talks about. If you're the one who feels like you're pushing and you're looking around going, man, I wish everybody else would work their guts out like I do, you got to realize that that's not necessarily expected, or it's not necessarily something that you should hold your team to. And because they're looking at you going, you're out of balance and you're crazy and you're psycho, your ambition is like over the top. And so that's one thing I've learned and continue to learn, is that I got to be okay with the fact that I'm probably going to be the most passionate, the most driven, the most pursuant of what's in front of me. And there's other people on my team who have the willingness to follow me, but they have other things they're passionate about. And allow them to pursue those things, allow them to find joy in those things, and not just feel like they've only got to be passionate about my thing. And give them permission to pursue some other things, and to go, you know what, it's okay that you're not on the same level I am. Now, here's what it doesn't do. It doesn't give any sense of you know, a standard that says, well, you don't have to, you can just sort of play okay and you can be average. That's not what it does. But I think even giving permission is a good first step.